welcome to your sexy, sacred fertility webinar with my guest expert, Pauline Goossens, and myself, Joeva. We are so excited to have you with us today to show you how to bring the sexy back into your relationship with your fertility, and also bring the sacred elements back into crossing these sacred rites of passage into motherhood, from conception, through pregnancy, and birth. And it all starts with awareness of our monthly cycle through all 4 phases of our cycle. So I'm so excited to share with you Pauline's deep wisdom on this topic and how our hormones influence our sexuality, our choice in partners, our emotions, and how all of this is, of course, connected with your fertility and your ability to optimize your fertility naturally with simple lifestyle changes, which we're going to share with you. So to just briefly introduce myself, as I said, I'm Joeva. I have been a birth doula for over 12 years, and I'm a coach and educator, and I specialize in supporting women and couples throughout the childbearing year, from preconception through postpartum. So everything from fertility support to counseling for all kinds of pregnancy loss, holistic preparation for birth, as well as postpartum recovery support. And one of my favorite ways that I serve is supporting you in what I like to call baby-proofing your relationship or marriage if you're coupled. And we're going to share with you a lot of those tools today that you can use so that this time of calling in a child, calling in a pregnancy, is something that actually brings you closer together as a couple and strengthens your relationship rather than stresses it, which is unfortunately the case with way too many couples. So I want to let you introduce yourself for a moment before I go any further. Pauline, as I said, is a hormone cycle expert and just a wealth of wisdom around how we can use our lifestyle changes to support our hormonal balance, our emotional well-being, and of course, our fertility. So I'll let you share more about you.
Thank you, Ivy. Like you said, my name is Pauline. I'm a hormone cycle expert. I have studied 4 years of pre-medicine, went to a few classes in medical school to find that I wasn't on board with the pharmaceutical drug industry and really wanting to find the root cause of an illness. And I found that hormones, when I went through my own journey of coming off of birth control and going through a year depression, losing half my hair, that I got into researching about hormones. And to me, I was just like, wow, how do we not learn this? Not even in any of my anatomy, physiology, chemistry, organic chemistry, biology, none of these classes, even in sexual education, of how our body works, how our mind works, why we behave in certain ways. And that's what brought me to where I am today. Is now I help hundreds of women realize that why we think and do and have these 4 different phases, that we need different nutrients, exercises, and mindsets for each phase of our month. So I support women in balancing their hormones. And when you balance your hormones, you balance your life, and everything comes into alignment. And yeah, optimizes your fertility when you balance your hormones.
Beautiful. Yeah, so true. I love how you put that. When we balance our hormones, we balance our life. And such a key part of this is tuning into our connection with nature, because we are nature. And so what does it mean to put the sexy back into the fertility space? It means to harness our birthright, which is our connection to our bodies and our connection to our natural fertility and our natural state, which is aliveness. So our sexuality is a barometer. Our libido is, so to speak, is a barometer for our sense of aliveness and overall vitality, which is a barometer for our overall health and well-being. And so when we talk about bringing the sexy back, we're really talking about putting the power back where it belongs to strengthen your fertility and to balance your hormones, which that power belongs with you. And unfortunately today, the field of fertility and the field of women's health in general has been over-medicalized. And we've been sold these myths like that the solution is going to be in a pill or an injection or with a test or with an authority outside of ourselves. And of course, we take an integrative approach, and all of these tools can be helpful. But at the end of the day, we want to empower you with the knowledge you need to be able to balance your hormones and boost your fertility naturally, so that you're able to have the radiance and aliveness and sense of yourself as a sexual being that is your birthright. Because in our culture, we also think of sex as something we do or have, like I'm going to have sex or get sex. But sex is our beingness. We are sexual beings. And so this state of aliveness, this state of radiant health and optimal fertility and hormonal balance is a state of sexual well-being. So we are really excited to share with you tools for how you can harness this power yourself. And another one of the problems I want to touch on really briefly here is that in the process of trying to conceive, what I've seen with so many couples I've supported is that the stress around it, the pressure, can actually harm your fertility. So exactly what you're trying to do is taking us further away from the intention, which is getting pregnant. And the way I see this, a classic example we see in the fertility space all the time is couples who may turn to assisted reproductive strategies, assisted reproductive techniques, and they may be doing IVF, they may be doing fertility treatments, and sometimes doing this for years, tens of thousands of dollars, not getting pregnant or not able to carry a pregnancy to term, and then completely give up and adopt. I've seen this many times in my practice, and then make love and get pregnant naturally. So why does this happen so often that it's almost like a modern day, tale that we hear? Part of it is the surrender and the letting go and the opening that happens on a physiological level, the relaxation and the cascade of hormones that results from that surrender when we let go and let go of our agendas. Because when we feel the pressure to conceive, not only does this lower our sex drive whenever there's pressure or stress there, but it also interferes with our delicate balance of hormones that allows our fertility to thrive. And of course, it can also strain a relationship. So we want to do the opposite of all this. We want to make this juicy and pleasurable and enjoyable and something that you feel empowered and excited to embark on, whether you are a single mom by choice or whether you are partnered, whether you have been trying to conceive for years or whether you're just starting to think about getting started, or if you're coming off birth control and you want to know how to bring your menstrual cycle into balance and how to protect your fertility for the future if you think you want to be a mom a couple years from now. So Pauline is going to share with us how our hormones relate, first of all, with our emotions. How does the way we feel, how is this influenced by our hormones? And this is so important because just like I said that we are sexual beings, really we're psychosexual beings. And what this means is that our minds and our bodies are not two separate things, like they're often treated in the modern conventional medical model. The way we feel influences our physical health, and our physical health is expressed in our hormonal balance, which of course influences our emotions and our relationship to our bodies and our sexuality. And as Pauline is also going to share with us, our choice of partners even. So Pauline, how do we start with this? How do our hormones influence our emotions throughout our menstrual cycle?
Yeah, such a great question. And also I love what you say about how, our mind and body is completely connected, and it is like our hormones. I like to say that our hormones are a different entity of us, and they have their own agenda. And coming back to nature, this is very much like how we live. It's how we keep life going, is the attraction between people. It's the reason we do things, and it's our hormone cycle. Our hormones are basically the connection between the mind and the body. It's that they're chemical messengers between, yeah, your brain and your organs. It's the subconscious constantly trying to make us survive and reproduce. That is their main role. And so I like to think and say that our hormones are the ego. They're just trying to make us survive and trying to make us reproduce. And so we don't even realize it, but they dictate so many of our decisions, our behaviors, our cravings, our desires. They literally decide everything for us. And then we come to a place of realizing, well, what is it, my true self, or my outside of my hormones? How am I making these decisions, and how can I best partner with my ego or partner with my hormone cycle? Because it's something that's always there. It's something that is something that we have to accept and live with, instead of, getting rid of the ego and getting rid of, it's something that we need to partner with it. So here I have the woman's hormonal cycle. Men have a 24-hour hormone cycle. They're in tune with the sun, and so they have this daily cycle. And then, we grow up and we are always told, or have been told, women are crazy. They have mood swings up and down, all these things. And I think that the word crazy is only used because we don't understand something. So then we name or label the other person or thing crazy because we can't handle it. We don't understand it. Yeah. So hormones, they affect 6 vital systems. They affect our brain, our metabolism, our gut microbiome, our immune system, our sexual reproductive system, and our stress response system. So this is why I say when you balance your hormones, you balance your life, because it affects everything. And so here we are with the ovarian cycle. Basically, is the first day of your bleed is the first day of your monthly cycle. And so we are in tune with the moon. Women, we have 13 cycles in a year, just like the moon, 28.5 days average. And like I mentioned, men have a 24-hour cycle in tune with the sun. So the fact that we can reproduce, we also have the solar cycle, the circadian rhythm, but we also have this month-long cycle to reproduce. So first day of your period is the day 1 of your monthly cycle. Our periods last about 3 to 6 days, and we get into then the follicular phase. So your period is also known as your menstruation. Then we get into the follicular phase. You can think of these as inner seasons. So your menstruation is when we want to be warm and cozy. It's our winter phase. It's our introverted phase, basically. And then we go into spring. The moment we're done menstruating, it's like, wow, I have energy. And this is thanks to estrogen. So estrogen is this growth hormone. It's making you smarter. It's making you prettier. Your face becomes more symmetrical. It's making your verbal skills better, more articulate, more feminine voice. It's making your brain work sharper. It's making your bones stronger, your muscles stronger, and recover more quickly. Estrogen is just like, wow, it's such a beautiful, beautiful hormone that is making us grow. And basically, this follicular phase is prepping us for ovulation. So ovulation happens about 2 weeks after your period. And this is when we are fertile. So this is the moment. It's the vital sign that you are healthy. If you're not ovulating, then you're not healthy enough to reproduce. And so when we think of fertility, optimal health is optimal fertile health. Even if you're not planning on having a child at the moment, it's still the vital sign that you are healthy. You are able to reproduce, which is such a gift. It's a birthright. It's amazing. So this estrogen is prepping us with becoming smarter, prettier, wiser, and stronger, like all of these things, just so you can be your best self during ovulation, to present yourself. It's the flower blooming. It's the summer phase. And happens for only a moment in time when the egg gets released in hopes that it got impregnated. And we have testosterone here, the yellow line, that also rises, and that's this confidence and risk-taking to go up to your mate and, you know, get them to bed. Basically, our hormone cycle is constantly trying to get us pregnant, constantly. And then once you get your period again, it's just trying all over again, every single month. It's what our hormones are doing, and it's what's driving us. It's this nature of, like you said, Ivy, just this sexual, we are sexual beings. And even if we don't think of it or not, it's just part of us. It's what's driving us naturally. And this is why I say there's this other agenda that's going on within us. And, you know, we study things outside of us so much. And when we realize and we can understand what's going on in this cycle, then we can best be aligned with our path, our goals, and really find a lot of beauty and love for this life that we have. So then after ovulation, we go into the luteal phase, or the fall or autumn phase. And this is when progesterone dominates. So progesterone, it comes from Greek to progestate. And this is basically the pregnant hormone. And this pregnant hormone, it's sedative, and it makes us calm. And even though cortisol or stress levels naturally rise during this time, thankfully our stress levels naturally rise, it brings more awareness. Imagine you're driving slower during this time. You're washing your hands more often. You are in this pregnant mom mode, and this progesterone is trying to keep the egg safe and embedded in your womb, basically. And it's just raising this awareness, and you have a higher intuition during this phase, higher creativity. You're more introverted, and a lot of women have PMS, let's say, or they call this the PMS phase, but PMS is abnormal. We should not be feeling PMS. PMS is a symptom. It's premenstrual syndrome or premenstrual symptoms. It's your body screaming at you like, hey, you're having cramps, or I'm having cramps. This means I didn't get enough of this nutrient at this other time of the cycle. And it's your body telling you that there is a hormonal imbalance. So PMS is a vital sign to know that something is off. And this is when you should be paying attention, like, okay, I'm having cramps, anxiety, mood swings, acne, bloating, all of these signs where you just don't feel good in this phase, or any phase really, is a sign that there is a hormonal imbalance. Because like I mentioned before, your hormones affect everything. So if you're feeling depressed or any of these symptoms I've mentioned, then there's a hormonal imbalance. And so this comes to your emotions. The next slide, your emotions. So we have different emotions at different times of the cycle. When we are menstruating, we feel most vulnerable, sensitive, and introverted. And these are not bad things. You could take them or construe them as being bad or negative, but they are also very positive and very like a surrendering of being like, I'm very open and vulnerable at the moment. And I'm very sensitive. I can feel things more easily, or emotions more easily. And being introverted,
your intuition is heightened, right? Because when we draw our senses inward and we're not orienting to the outside world, we're not referencing externally as much, that's what puts us in touch with that deep knowing, which can be so powerful in the menstrual phase of our cycle, as we're just attuned to those deeper awarenesses of what we might need to shift in our lives to bring us more into balance for the next cycle.
Yeah, completely. And so this time of menstruation, it's a beautiful time. This is what I love to teach women, is that you can love every part of your cycle. I love every part of my cycle. I look forward to every part of my cycle. I'm like, yeah, I can't wait to get my bleed again, or yeah, I can't wait to be in my introverted phase and my extroverted phase. There's such beauty in having these variable, like not having the same thing every day. I am so grateful to be a woman. It is a beautiful, beautiful feeling to be a woman. And yeah, so then in the follicular phase, once after we stop bleeding, we're in the follicular spring phase, and your mind thinks in the future. Now it's planning like, okay, how am I going to find this mate? How am I going to find this mate? Basically makes you single, it makes you extroverted, it makes you motivated, and you do tend to have as a negative hormonal pattern during this phase is fear. And fear happens when you're scared of the future, right? So what if this doesn't happen? What's going to happen if I talk to this person and they reject me? Or all of these like fears of the future can happen as well. So what I like to do when I do find a negative hormonal thought pattern, like fear, for example, in the follicular phase, I know that's just my hormones. And I can detach myself from the hormonal thought patterns because I know that's not my true or higher self. I can let go of that part and then focus on mind mapping, planning ahead, going out with my friends and being social and things like that. The fear will not necessarily help me, or it might motivate me actually. So it's there. It's there for a reason. Then we go into,
I just want to say I love the integration of recognizing if this is just a vestige of evolution, that I'm feeling this way based on something that my body is creating, and letting go of identifying with that. And at the same time, the awareness to look at what is this pointing me in the direction of? Because oftentimes, would you say, Pauline, that our hormones can be amplifiers of underlying emotions that we might not otherwise be aware of until they come forward in our bodies, in that communication, as you so beautifully put it, between mind and body? And then we have this heightened awareness. So I feel like our hormones are really a superpower that we have as women, because we're able to be in touch with the deeper layers of our being in a more prominent way than we otherwise would if we didn't have these hormonal messengers speaking to us throughout our life.
Yeah, completely an amplifier of our emotions. And our hormones are our emotions. They like you said, they amplify. Like when I'm having fear, it amplifies fear, or it amplifies the extrovertedness. It amplifies like this is the time to be doing things. So this is what's so beautiful about partnering with your hormone cycle, and you're making the use and like the superpowers of each phase to do things, and you save so much time, so much energy. And by doing things that are in the hormonal phase, that they are like those amplifiers, you are making your hormones happy. Your hormones want you to be socializing during this phase. So go be social, go enjoy, go talk to that guy you've had a crush on. You have more confidence and think, whereas imagine you're going to a party when on your period, your hormones don't want you to be there. You just want to be at home and chill out and not necessarily be around a lot of people. And this is because like when we are menstruating, we are at our most vulnerable. And this is a time when we can take in other people's energies more easily, because we're so open during this time and vulnerable and sensitive. So we can't necessarily take on too much of their energy. So it is a time to be more introverted. But whereas we're in the follicular spring phase, we're much more giving and wanting to be there for other people and whatnot. So it's a perfect time to be. And when your immune system is higher as well. So within a higher immune system, being around a lot of people, you're not going to get sick. And this is all based back to the nature of our hormone cycle. So going into the ovulation phase, like I mentioned, this is the time that's like you're fertile, you're confident because you have testosterone that goes up. And this is also a time when you are wanting most of the attention. You'll notice that you're wearing red more often, you're putting on makeup, lipstick. And it's funny about lipstick. I heard that we wear lipstick basically to show that our lower lips are red and juicy and more like engorged, basically like horny. And so we wear initially lipstick to show that we're fertile. And so women, we tend to spend more money in this like follicular and ovulation phase on beautifying ourselves. Whereas when we're in that pregnant mom mode phase, we tend to spend more money on nesting and buying pillows and things like that. So
I also did a study on kissing recently, and it was talking about how many other of our mammalian relatives actually don't kiss, whereas human beings throughout time in different cultures, we kiss in different ways, but it has always kind of been a part of our sexual ritual, so to speak. The reason for this being that our sense of smell isn't as sharp as some of our other mammalian relatives. And so when we kiss, we're actually tasting the pheromones of our mate to kind of assess biological compatibility. So I feel like since ovulation is the time when we want to reproduce, that might also be part of the lipstick, is of like, hey, let's smell and see if you're a worthy mate or a compatible mate. Uh-oh, did we just lose Pauline?
Right.
Pauline,
no, I'm still here.
It disappeared.
Yeah, it says my connection seems low at the moment.
Oh, we can hear you.
Okay, and as soon as your connection goes back to normal, the video feed will be reactivated. So let's just see how that goes. But yeah, I'll continue with it. You can still hear me.
Yeah.
So yeah, then that's really interesting though about, and just think about babies when they're younger as well. They're just putting everything in their mouths. They're feeling all the textures, and they're just having this connection to all of these new things. So I totally understand that, like, kissing as well is a good way to for our bodies to understand, hey, are we compatible? So during ovulation, we tend to be more attention grabbing and interrupting. So imagine this is something that, if I'm ovulating, I'm being aware that attention right now, and I should not be interrupting. When women tend to interrupt others more often. So just to create more respect out of, hey, I'm back. Out of respect for others, and just being self-aware of, like, I know I'm ovulating right now and I want all of the attention. For example, I went to a women's circle yesterday, and it just tends to be a little bit harder to listen. But since I know that I'm in my ovulation phase right now, that I'm wanting to speak more, I sit there and I really focus on listening, because I know, even though it's harder to listen because my hormones want me to be like, look at me, everyone, and I like, listen to me and all this stuff. And it just brings that self-awareness so that you can better integrate yourself, be more grounded, more calm, and not take the attention off other people as well. So this is how...
And also step into your power when it's time to do that, because I find so often, even something as monumental as childbirth, supporting women in the birth room, it's been so moving to me over the years to see how many women struggle to allow their voices to be heard, even in something as important as their birthing choices, when it comes to one of the most important and memorable events in their lives. And so leaning into the hormonal cascade and the ovulatory phase to claim your voice in areas that your self-expression may be wanting to come through can also be a really powerful way to claim your sexual power, because, as we said, we're psychosexual beings. And so, as we say in birth, as is above, so is below. And so when our throat is open, when our voice is open, when our jaw is open and relaxed, and what we have on our heart is able to be expressed, this also opens the pelvis and the reproductive basin of our body, our womb space, our sexual channels. And so you can definitely see how this would play out in the bedroom, right? So many women have trouble expressing ourselves, expressing our needs, saying what feels good or what doesn't feel good. And when we allow ourselves to express in this way, our whole sense of sexual vitality is heightened, and it expands our capacity to receive the kind of pleasure we deserve that is also going to benefit our overall well-being and hormonal balance.
100%. I couldn't have said it better. And just because like our estrogen is making your verbal skills higher and more articulate, this is the time to use your superpower to speak up, to communicate. Your hormones are making you like astounding at speaking, and you'll see. So if you ever want to sing or express yourself, the follicular and ovulatory phases are the best time of your cycle to do that, because you have that like that extra superpower at the moment, which is so beautiful. And to tap into that, be like, okay, this is the time to do it. I'm going to express myself, to communicate. And especially in the bedroom, when you're wanting to, you know, get fertile, basically, like this is the time. This is the time to express your desires.
And we could say also that these different phases of the cycle can be harnessed for optimizing your fertility on a metaphorical level as well, right? Not all of us want to give birth to children. Not all of us will. Mm-hmm. There's so many ways that we can give birth to ourselves as women, whether that's birthing a new incarnation of a relationship or rebirthing the relationship that you're in, just your own relationship to your body. Could be a creative project or a cause that you feel passionately about in the world. So there's so many ways to use your cycle to support whatever it is you're birthing in your life.
Definitely. Yeah. Your sexual energy, right? It's wanting to create another being. Your sexual energy is your creation energy. So use that creative energy into your projects, into your ideas, into your work, into your passions. You can bring any of this into whatever it is that you are focusing your time and energy on. So yeah, completely. So then we'll go into the luteal phase, the fall phase, when your hormones think you're pregnant. Like I mentioned, your cortisol levels, your stress naturally rise to protect you, to protect the potential baby that you have. So this means that your awareness goes up. This means that your intuition, your gut feeling goes up, which is such a beautiful thing, because stress tends to have a negative connotation, but when we lack stress, it creates depression and lack of motivation. But when we have too much stress, which I know we've all had, it creates anxiety and whatnot. So having the balance in your hormones, because stress is a hormone, it's cortisol, and it's there for a reason, to help you to raise awareness, to raise intuition. And right before our periods as well is when our brains are communicating the most between both hemispheres, and this allows for solving complex problems and thinking outside the box and being super creative. And again, like, even if you're planning on having a child or not, this is like, yeah.
We lost you for a second. Last thing I heard was whether you're planning on having a child or not.
Oh, okay. You can bring that energy into your work, your art.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and then when in the luteal phase, we're more. So this is a good time to think, oh, what worked well, what didn't work well, and how can I bring that energy into my work?
Absolutely. And it's one thing I want to mention about the luteal phase too, in terms of if you are planning to become pregnant at any point, luteal phase is really good practice for pregnancy. And it's a part of the cycle that is often ignored in the fertility space, because of course we kind of orient our cycle around when we're bleeding. That's for most of us, the most visible sign that we can be aware that we're having a cycle. And then of course, when it comes to fertility, we also emphasize ovulation, because that's when we're technically fertile, in other words, able to conceive a child, when sperm meets egg in the ovulation phase. But this luteal phase is also key for optimizing your fertility, because it's the luteal phase that allows us to maintain a healthy pregnancy. And fertility is not just about becoming pregnant. It's about being able to carry that pregnancy to term and allow your body to nourish what begins as an embryo and will ultimately develop into your baby. And so in the luteal phase, we're called to slow down. This is part of bringing the sexy back into fertility, is honoring not just the parts of our sexuality that we've been conditioned in our culture to believe is sexy, like when we're out there in ovulation, strutting our stuff, but also the luteal phase that calls us to slow down and to listen more deeply to our emotions, which are magnified in this time. And this is such an important skill as you become pregnant, because pregnancy will require you to slow down. And that can be really difficult for moms. I've seen this so many times in my practice where women have a hard time slowing down because they've identified with feeling and the exclusion aspects of their being. And so just like your hormones think you're pregnant in the luteal phase, when you do become pregnant, pregnancy is one extended luteal phase, one big 9-10 month luteal phase. And so the way you relate to this part of your cycle in allowing yourself to slow down, in allowing yourself to be more reflective and gentle with yourself, is going to be reflected in your well-being when you do become pregnant, as well as your likelihood of having a healthy, thriving pregnancy. And one more thing I will say about the luteal phase is the way we regulate our stress hormones in this cycle sets us up for healthy ovulation in the next phase. So for those of us who tend to run on cortisol and overuse cortisol as a source of our energy, this will diminish our progesterone, which diminishes our capacity to maintain a healthy pregnancy and reduces our chance of ovulation in the next cycle. So you can see how this would interfere with fertility, but also interfere with our libido, because cortisol also competes with testosterone for the precursor hormone, DHEA. And we need testosterone to feel that confident, juicy libido that Pauline was talking about.
Yeah, completely. I apologize for my connection issues, but it seems to be working well now. But yeah, the luteal phase, and like you said, the stress, it completely affects your fertility. So if we need these like stress management tools to lower stress so that we can make more progesterone and that calming sedative hormone. The two main things that I teach about with my clients that stress and nutrition are the two top main things to have in balance, to have everything else in balance. If your nutrition, if you're not feeding yourself well, and if your stress levels are really too high, you're going to it has this cascading effect that you're going to throw all of your other hormones out of balance. And then that deters your fertility, your health out of line. So, and what I was going to mention earlier was that the negative emotions that we do feel during this phase that are more common are shame, guilt, greed, and jealousy. So again, thinking in the past, like, why did I do this? Why did I say that? I'm feeling, and then, oh, my video's out again, but you can still hear me, right?
Yep.
Okay. And we tend to get greedy. So when we're in this pregnant phase, we want to feel safe. We want to feel secure. And so we tend to get, if you notice yourself getting a bit greedy of like, oh no, that's my couch, that's my money, we just tend to be a little bit more greedy with material items just so we can feel a little bit more safe and secure, because your hormones think you're pregnant. So you want to feel like you have a home, like you have security and safety and stability. And then finally, we have jealousy. So jealousy is there because at this point of our cycle, we are infertile. But your partner produces trillions of sperm, and we only have a limited amount of eggs. And him producing trillions of sperm, he can go and impregnate, let's there are 4 billion other women in this world, and let's say half of them are in their fertile phase right now, he can just go and natural jealousy. That's why we have that emotion, is because he can potentially leave you basically. So if you do feel any shame, guilt, greed, or jealousy during this phase, again, detach from them, focus on the heightened awareness, heightened intuition, heightened creativity, and bring more of that positivity into your life to bring down stress, and not attach yourself to these emotions that are, you know, getting your mind going, and you're ruminating on these thoughts, and it's not, there's better energy spent focusing on the positives, on your superpowers.
And speaking into, can you go back for just one sec, Pauline? Because I want to speak to the psychosexuality piece around some of these, what some would call negative emotions. And the way I see emotions is kind of two sides of the same coin. So when it comes to jealousy, for example, like you were saying, how can we use that emotion as a teacher to guide us into our deeper wisdom around what this emotion has to share? So if I'm feeling jealousy in my relationship, for example, what is the underlying need that may need to be communicated? And it may only be need to be communicated with ourselves. So maybe our partner is completely trustworthy and this is not something we need to bring to them. Maybe it's just inside of myself affirming my own worthiness and my own sexual aliveness in my luteal phase, not to compare to the external image of somebody who might be out there on the town in their ovulation phase. And in the same vein, when it comes to guilt, the flip side of guilt, if we turn over the other side of the coin and look deeper, the potential there, it's an opportunity for self-compassion. So what am I feeling guilty about? Some women, as absolutely tragic as this is, might feel guilty because they ate something as harmless as eating something that they didn't think they should eat because they were shitting on themselves about what the right thing to eat was. And so when we feel that guilt, to recognize this is my superpower hormones inviting me into self-compassion so that I can become one with my psychosexual nature, which is my aliveness, which is my own self-love that allows me to be the sexual essence that I am fully expressed. And so lastly, on these quote unquote negative emotions that we would associate with the luteal phase, when it comes to greed, like you were saying so beautifully, Pauline, this is the nesting instinct. So whether you're pregnant or not, this is a superpower to create your nest, to create your haven, because winter, the internal winter season, is right around the corner, menstruation, which is a time of rest and renewal. And so if we can use this greed, so to speak, in the luteal phase to gather, you know, traditionally women in tribal cultures, there were hunters and gatherers, and it was often the women that would be gatherers. And so using this desire to surround yourself with lush, beautiful, nourishing things in your environment that helps you feel supported and comfortable in your home space, especially, or maybe on your body, something wonderful to adorn yourself with, mindfully, of course. That can be really nourishing for your fertility as well. And of course, if you are pregnant, this is a wonderful time to prepare your life for baby. But I just think it's important that we not collapse our modern day version of greed, which is collapsed with materialism and commodification of our essential needs, with our birthright, which is abundance, which is we deserve to have a full belly of yummy, nourishing foods and a home full of beauty and a heart full of love. So when it comes to greed, allowing it to call us deeper into what do we need? And same with jealousy and same with guilt, really, is often that call for a deeper sense of self-compassion that we need on a deeper level.
I love everything that you said. That was completely. I love that, you know, with greed, turn it into abundance. And with, jealousy, just realizing that we have that security, that safe partner, that supportive partner, And I really love what you were saying about that.
Thank you.
And yeah, looking at on a deeper level of why are we feeling this way, and nesting, it's completely it's the time to reorganize your home, to clean your home, and to gather things, and to be grateful for what you do have, to be abundant and with a heart full of love. Completely.
Yeah, because as women, that is our nature, greed, when it's fulfilled, as females, we will naturally give from the overflow. So when we're coming from scarcity, which is this patriarchal model that we've inherited because we live in this capitalistic culture where we have to have money to buy things, and that's the definition of how we get our needs met. When we go deeper than that and allow ourselves to be abundant, as you said, there is an innate generosity that springs forth from there, whether we're mothers or not. This is the natural mothering instinct that we all have throughout our fertile cycle, to nourish and to share.
Yeah, completely. Okay. Well, with that said, our hormones also affect our sex drive. Woohoo! So, woo! So our sex drive, also called our libido, we have different phases, basically. I'm going to skip forward a couple of slides here. We have our infertile days and our infertile days and our fertile days. So when we are infertile, basically is about days 1. So when you start your period, up until about day 8 or 9, you're infertile. Sperm can live inside you for up to 5 days. So even though we're fertile for basically like 1 day, we can still get pregnant because sperm can live inside of you for up to 5 days. That gives like a 6-day window. And if you're not planning on having a child right now, you give kind of like a 10-day window. So basically from days like 9 to 20, that's about 10 days, 11 days that you can, just practice safer sex if you're not planning on having a child. Or if you are planning on having a child, this is a good time to be like, okay, let's try. And you'll notice that your cervical mucus changes throughout the cycle as well. So when you're bleeding, obviously it's blood. And then after that, you're in this like dry phase, and you're not necessarily horny yet up until like the more estrogen rises, the more and more you get horny. And this testosterone, the yellow line here, is giving you that extra boost. It's raising your libido to be like, hey, I'm ready to have it. Like your hormones want you to get pregnant. So testosterone rises to like get you into the mood. And you'll notice that your cervical mucus is going to be like a raw egg white. And this is good for sperm. It's the good pH level for sperm to go up straight to the egg. Whereas other times of the cycle, you notice it's more like a creamy white. And so this is kind of a sign that you're infertile. So yeah, and then after days 20 up until day 8 to 9 of your cycle, then that's also a time when you're infertile. And this is something that I'm like crazy that we are put on birth control, when we're fertile for 1 day, but we take a pill every single day of the cycle, or just completely suppressing birth control. What it does, it completely suppresses everything in your body, all of your vital systems and organs. So you are not healthy enough to reproduce. And remember, I said ovulation is the vital sign that you are healthy, being able to ovulate. And so when we take synthetic hormones, we're just suppressing everything so that we're not able to reproduce. So it definitely works as a birth control, but there are different ways. There's the fertility awareness method and natural ways and reading your temperature as well to realize when you can or when you are fertile and infertile.
And if you are coming off birth control, really take your time in easing into these various methods, because as a full spectrum doula who assists birth and non-birth outcomes, I can't tell you how many times I've supported women who didn't know they could become pregnant at various phases because they thought they knew their cycle. But especially if you're coming off birth control, sometimes your cycle takes several cycles to kind of regulate for you to get in the flow of knowing the signs to look for when your fertile days are. So just wanted to say that, because like we said, our bodies want to reproduce. And so you're probably more fertile than you may even realize.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, completely. It definitely takes a few months. I like to say that at least a year, you should wait at least a year from coming off birth control until when you want to get pregnant, because our hormones just take a while to balance themselves out. And especially right after coming off birth control and you've been on this like daily synthetic dose of hormones, then your hormones have been depending on, the synthetic hormones. And then all of a sudden they have to figure it out themselves. And so that comes with a lot of hormonal imbalances, and it just takes a while to come back to balance. But I'll tell you later how to go quicker into balance. But yeah, I wrote these confidence levels here. It's when we're infertile, we have lower confidence, and then when we are fertile, we have higher confidence. So I'll come back to the other slide here of your sex drive. So when we are menstruating, we are infertile and we tend to feel low confidence, right? We're not feeling we're not feeling like we're ovulating, basically. Our hormones are the lowest, so our energy is the lowest, and we're not feeling as confident naturally. But we can feel horny. Some women, they're like, I get really horny like right before my period or on my period. And that's because we have prostaglandins. So prostaglandins are a temporary endocrine or hormone gland that creates the movement for your uterine lining to be shed, basically. So we get our period. And so that movement maybe tickles our G-spot, and it just creates that like, ooh, there's something tingly down there. So then we go into our spring phase, and like I mentioned, cervical mucus will be creamy or dry, and we have a lower libido during this time. But then as the closer we get to ovulation, we get more and more horny. So in ovulation, we're fertile, we have a higher libido. You'll notice you have a clear, raw, egg white mucus. And then we get into the luteal phase where we have, again, a lower libido, creamy cervical mucus, and this is when we're more nesting. So you will see that we have different desires. So we'll need more foreplay, for example, during the infertile phases. And then during the summer phase, it's like, let's get to bed, and you're orgasming like more quickly, basically. You don't need as much foreplay. And during the follicular phase, and this comes to the choice in partner, we have different choices in partners. So when you're in the spring phase, the follicular phase, you're planning for the future, and you're wanting this like passion and adventure and strong, sexy man, because you want a strong, sexy baby to be born with like a good health, and like so you tend to go for a more masculine featured guy, and even like a one night stand type of guy. You don't really care if he's like not financially stable, and you're like, wow, he's just so gorgeous. I just want to have this like this experience with this man. And but then and same with the ovulation, your confidence is high and you want someone to match your confidence, and again, going for masculine, and maybe a guy who has a bigger ego. And but then once you go into the luteal phase, and you're in this pregnant mom mode or mindset, and you're wanting security and support and safety and stability, then we tend to go for a man who's more feminine featured, more supportive, more empathetic, secure, stable, financially stable. And that father figure, like basically you surround yourself during the luteal phase, you want to surround yourself with people who you trust, friends, close friends, and family, because they would be the ones who support you during a pregnancy. Whereas, and it's so funny seeing my friends on the dating scene, let's say, they're like, I finally met a guy who's just amazing. He's 10 years younger, but he's super sexy. And we had just had passionate time together. And then maybe like a week or two later, they're in the luteal phase. And I asked them like, hey, how's it going with that guy? She's like, yeah, I don't know. I'm just not as into him as I was before. And I'm like, well, yeah, he's 10 years younger, and might not be that father figure and like supportive type of guy that your hormones want. So I feel like your ideal partner is someone who is good for each phase of the cycle. They can be spontaneous and adventurous and passionate and hold the masculine during your follicular and ovulatory phases. And then when it comes to your luteal and menstrual phases, can they also be supportive and empathetic and a father figure type person? So yeah, it's interesting to see how we decide, and is it your hormones who are deciding, or is it your, is it your true self that you really do enjoy this person? And how can we partner with it and have both of the hormonal stability and the the actual enjoyment of lifestyle choices that you have together?
Yeah, that's so important. And, just to bring back in this psychosexual piece, I feel like what you're speaking to, Pauline, is the importance of integrating our whole selves into our choice in partners. So both our psyche, our emotions, our feelings, and eros, our desire, our soma, our body, our sexual arousal when it comes to the follicular and ovulatory charge and sexual charge around a masculine, sexually desirable partner. And then moving into the luteal and menstrual phase, a deeper connection with our awareness of what kind of partner is going to be a real partner in terms of being able to care for us and a potential family, who's nurturing and supportive, someone who can really be my rock, and to believe that we deserve it all, to not make sacrifices one or the other, which is the case in so many of the couples I've worked with, where there might be the stability there and the security, but there's a lack of a sexual charge in the relationship, or vice versa. We've all seen or been in those relationships that were wild and passionate, but maybe didn't care for us on those emotional levels that we really need to feel integrated and stable in our lives and in our sexuality. So part of this is also expanding our definition of sex, not just to include the more masculine energied kind of sex that we see in our culture today, very prominent in our culture today, certainly in porn, which so many people are consuming, and nothing against that. But our female bodies have a different pattern of arousal, especially in the luteal and menstrual phases of our cycle. And to expand our definition of sex to include some of these other kinds of play, some would call it foreplay, but I don't really call it foreplay, because I think that kind of connection and intimacy and process-oriented engagement with our sexuality is important to have all through the sexual experience. So we can bring intimacy. Tantra is a wonderful tool for deepening intimacy in these ways, whether it's just feeling our bodies, being held, looking into our lover's eyes, communicating our needs. You can really make love with your words, so to speak. And expanding our definition of sex in this way is going to help bring our libido online through these different phases of the cycle, and also help stoke the fire of passion in our relationship if perhaps some of that sexual charge has been diminishing, if some of that juiciness has been lost, which is of course the case oftentimes many years or even just a few years into a relationship. And of course, it's also essential if you're planning to be parents, because like I was sharing, the process of conceiving, some couples feel pressure around that, and we want to remove that pressure and make it juicy and fun, because that amazing sex that brings blood flow to the pelvis, that brings you closer together, that relaxes your bodies, both of you as a couple, is also going to help the conception process. And as you move into pregnancy, our sexual desires, our sexual needs do change through the various stages of pregnancy. And so one of the foundations for what I like to call baby-proofing your relationship is to start practicing expanding your definition of intimacy and sex now, so that when you do become pregnant, you have all of that to draw from in your repertoire, so to speak. And of course, this leads us to the next phase of the journey. When you do become parents, a new baby completely rocks a relationship. It's a big change for everybody, even the strongest, most passionate relationships. Bringing a new baby onto the scene will change things. And so you really want to already have established these various ways of connecting as a couple to feel sexually alive. And part of this is just opening our minds to the different ways that sexual play can be satisfying and taking it out of the idea of just goal-driven sex that looks a certain way.
I love that.
So I know we're nearing our time, but Pauline, I know you were going to share some, just kind of touching on some of the ways that we can support our bodies through each phase of the cycle. Maybe we'll just touch on each phase and a couple key tips that people can do in each phase. And I know we're going to go way deeper with this, which with a special gift that I have to share with you all. So stay with us. Pauline and I have a surprise for you. But let's hear a couple of these tools for supporting our hormonal balance and bringing us back in touch with our sexy through all phases of our cycle.
Yeah, so like I mentioned, the two top main things that we want to take care of to balance our hormones are your stress and your nutrition. So when you do balance these, you're going to boost your libido, boost your energy, and like I mentioned before, when you balance your hormones, you balance your life, and you're optimizing your fertility because you're optimizing your health. So exercising with our cycle is so key. We've grown up in a society, a patriarchal society. It makes sense. We live by the 9 to 5 because men were always the workers. And so we live by their 9 to 5, 24-hour hormonal cycle. And most research, maybe like upwards of 90% of the research was done on men as well. So when we see articles and whatnot of like, oh, we need to do this amount of cardio, we need to do this like high intensity training, we need to do CrossFit, like all of these things every single day, blah, blah, blah. That's for men. They can do that every single day, but we have this cycle that goes, you know, we have low energy and then we have high energy, and we have these 4 different phases where we need different nutrients, different minerals, different mindsets, and different movements with our bodies because our bodies change throughout the month. So exercising with your cycle is a huge component for understanding your body and the changes that it goes through. So for example, after your period, or let's just say we'll start with the period, during your period, your energy is the lowest, and it's really a time of restoring and renourishing. You're losing mainly iron, magnesium, and zinc, and this iron, as if any of you have ever had low iron or anemia, your energy levels are super low and you're more fatigued and whatnot. So during menstruation, it's a great time to just be focusing on stretching and gentle movements. And then after your period, you get a lot more energy, right? And this is the time when your muscle recovery and muscle growth is quickest. So this is a great time to be muscle building, doing a high intensity workout, doing cardio. Basically, these are like making you stronger. And the fact that your muscles can recover more quickly, you can go to the gym every day of this phase and boost your strength, because again, we're preparing ourselves for ovulation. So how can you become stronger and wiser and prettier and all these things, and build your immune system? It's your gut healing phase of your cycle. So everything's about growth during this phase. And you can, if you do go to the gym every single day of the month, or all throughout your 4 phases, this is the time to be adding a little bit more weights to your weightlifting. And then when we're ovulating, we have estrogen receptors, a lot of them in our knees and our Achilles tendons, our ankles. So higher estrogen tends to swell our joints. And so you'll notice that your knees and your ankles are a little bit more susceptible to injury during this phase. So during ovulation, it's really important to also, during the follicular phase, to strengthen your muscles so that you do protect your joints in your knees, in your ankles, by engaging as many muscles as possible, because that's how we protect our joints. We engage the muscles around our joints. So we want to really build that muscle. to protect them. And I like to stay grounded, doing things like plank or holding poses, so that, you're engaging the muscles and you're keeping your joints in place. And then when we go to the luteal phase, and this is where a lot of women are like, what? No way. I was just doing so much cardio and exercise, especially when you're feeling like we do tend to have more water retention or water weight during the luteal phase. We have lower confidence, and then women are, like you mentioned, feeling guilty because of the food they ate. But in the luteal phase, we do need 200 to 300 more calories because we're now getting our energy from food during the luteal phase. Whereas in the follicular phase, we're using energy from stored fat. So our hunger levels do go down during the follicular and ovulatory phases. But then in the luteal phase, a lot of women get so guilty with eating, with having cravings and eating more, and just like, oh my gosh, I eat so much before my period. And that's normal. Do not deprive yourself of food during the luteal phase, because if you're depriving yourself of food, you're actually turning on fat storage, because your body is trying to feed the baby and to use food as energy. And so if you're not giving yourself food, if you're intermittent fasting, if you're over exercising, you're raising stress levels, and you're turning on fat storage, because your body's like, hold on to the fat, protect the baby, and like use the fat to like feed the potential baby. And so do not over exercise during the luteal phase. You're turning on fat storage, muscle wasting, and bone density loss. And this is something that we really need to change that story of the male hormone cycle that we've been taught of, like, yeah, we need to do this every single day, like work out super hard. And that's just not the case for women. We need this time to be more relaxed and to get into our parasympathetic nervous system, which is the rest and digest nervous system. So still move, still do some, but instead of a hard like run, go for a light jog or walk even. Think like a pregnant woman. What would a pregnant woman do right now? And when we think of pregnant women, we just really want them to be as less stressed as possible. And then if you are going to go to the gym, just do lighter weights, a little bit more repetition, but do lighter weights.
Yeah, and the beautiful thing about these guidelines is it's really an invitation to listen to your body. Tune into your unique cycle and listen to your body, and you'll find that when you tune in, you'll naturally start to gravitate towards the kinds of body movements and the kinds of foods that supports where you are at in your cycle.
Completely. So then I'm a yoga teacher as well. And I thought, like, gosh, another male thing is that yoga was made by men for men. And it doesn't necessarily, same thing, like Ashtanga yoga, like do this every single day. Like, it's super, super masculine energy of just, and repetitive. And I thought there needs to be a yoga for women. So I created Om Cycle Yoga, which is ovulation, menstruation cycle yoga for balancing your hormones. And so that follows this exercise basically of the changes in our bodies. And so when we're in our menstrual phase, and some of us have heard of these chakras. We're like, what are those? But these chakras, they are energy centers, but they are also hormone glands. So no matter if you're spiritual or not, hormone glands are the scientific term, chakras are the spiritual term, but they're the same thing. So when we're in menstrual phase, we are in our root chakra, and it's very, very much a time to be doing yin yoga, which is very like surrendering, we hold a pose for 3 to 5 minutes, and it's really relaxing and getting into the stretching. And then once we get into our follicular phase, it's more of a gentle flow, and we go into our heart chakra. So it does, instead of going linear, we go from, it's more of an infinity sign. So we go from our root into our heart. Our heart is our thymus. It's our immune system. It's what's building the autoimmune system. And so like I mentioned before, estrogen is our growth hormone, and it's building our immune system. It's making us stronger. And it's still a time of self-love because our hormones are still quite low. And so we really want to replenish and focus on self-love, because for the rest of the cycle, women, we're naturally just givers and supportive people. And then as our estrogen keeps on rising, we go into our throat chakra. So our estrogen rises and it makes our verbal skills better. So this is this time to be speaking your truth and to communicate. And so we work on throat openers, which is our thyroid. And our thyroid helps our metabolism. It controls our metabolism. And then in the follicular phase still, we go into our third eye chakra. Again, our estrogen rises and it makes our brain smarter. We can retain memory and information more easily. So, and it's more of a strength vinyasa flow. And then when we are ovulating, we're in, and our third eye is our pituitary gland.
Yeah.
And then we go into the crown chakra. It's our pineal gland, and that's the sleep-wake schedule of, when we're awake, when it's bright out, we're awake. When we sleep, it's dark out. And that's our crown chakra. And it's also when we have most confidence, and we do inversions to ground the head because we tend to be a little bit high and out of body, like I can do anything when we're ovulating. And then we go into the luteal phase, and the luteal phase is now when we get into the lower chakras, and it's when we're most intuitive and aware, and it's our decision-making center as well. And the best time to be making a decision is this luteal phase because you have both progesterone and estrogen that are high during this phase. We're not overly positive like we were in ovulation, and not overly like pessimistic like we would be right before our period. And so that time in our luteal phase is the perfect time to make really important decision, big life, maybe bigger purchases or things like that. And then it's working on our pancreas and our adrenals. So it's when stress is naturally higher, and which is where we make stress or cortisol from our adrenals. And it's also pancreas. The luteal phase is when our blood sugar levels are more unstable, let's say, or more easily affected. If you eat a piece of cake, it's going to drive your blood sugar levels up and then give you a crash. So by working on this solar plexus center, we do twists. It helps with your digestion, which is slower during this phase. And then finally, right before our periods, we get into the sacral chakra, our ovaries, and getting into like hip openers. It's our emotional center. And by doing hip openers, we're allowing ourselves to be more emotionally open and let those flow. And it brings more of the energy into your ovaries, because sometimes we get into a space of like, okay, I want my period now. and it's bringing that energy into our ovaries. So that's Om Cycle Yoga. Please reach out to me if you're interested in that.
Yeah, please reach out to Pauline for that. Pauline, that is so powerful, not only for coming into balance with our cycle, but just in hearing you speak of the balance of opening up all these different centers in our body. It reminds me how our structural anatomy, the position of our pelvis, the functional anatomy, so to speak, can also influence our fertility. Because even if our pelvis is just a little bit out of alignment, which is of course connected with our spine, our low back, our shoulders, so many of us carry tension here or in our low back. Even when that's slightly out of alignment, it can put a torque on our uterus that limits the blood flow and also impacts hormonal balance and the functionality of our ovaries and our ability to maintain a pregnancy. So opening the body in this way, in a mindful way, really listening to your body, is such a key piece of bringing the sexy back into our fertility. Yeah. So I know you have so much more to share and such a wealth of wisdom around how we can support our bodies for optimal hormonal balance and fertility through each phase of the cycle. But I want to move into our special gifts, because I know, Pauline, you have a guidebook for how to do just this. So I want to tell people how they can find this. It's the Hormone Cycle Awareness Guide. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So the Hormone Cycle Awareness Guide, it will, these are the nutrition part. It says that all in this Hormone Cycle Awareness Guide as well. So I guess just to quickly give you just a little tidbit of what's in the Hormone Cycle Awareness Guide. It tells you all of the foods, the nutrients that we need for each phase of the cycle, our mindsets, our what exercises are needed, even your sex drive, the intentions that are good for each phase. It tells you basically how to balance your hormones through all of these things. And just a little guidebook because, yeah, we just need different things at different times of the cycle. So here it is in my hormone cycle awareness guide, and 13 pages. So it's simple, it's easy to refer to, and it really helps you to balance your hormones and optimize your fertility. And you can find that when you go to my website, balanceyourcycle.com. That's available on there.
Beautiful. And I would encourage everyone to grab that because I'm so excited to share about a special offering I have for you. It's something I have been brewing for years now. It is really a labor of love for jumpstarting your fertility naturally with simple lifestyle shifts. So many of the ones Pauline and I talked about today. And I'm so excited to have Pauline as a guest expert in the course as well. So wanting to share with you the Jumpstart Your Fertility journey. So if you're ready to prepare your mind, body, and life for pregnancy, I hope you will join us. There are 2 versions of the course. You can do a self-guided course, which is a 4-week journey, or if you want to join us for the live version, it's an 8-week journey. And we're going to be bringing the sexy back and bringing the sacred back to the space of fertility with a blend of modern science and ancient wisdom. So you're going to be supported by a tribe of other strong, wise women. You will feel empowered along your journey with the knowledge you need to boost your fertility naturally. And all of this is to connect you back to your intuition and your own body-centered wisdom, because you intuitively know what you need. You already have the awareness within you. Our job is to just unlock that, because for so many of us, it's been hijacked with misinformation and by turning outside, giving our authority over to what is best for our bodies and what is best for our hormonal health and our fertility. So we're going to put that power back in your hands and give you the ability to feel vibrant and juicy from feeling nourished on all the levels of your being. So there are 5 modules that are going to lay the foundation for your journey to conceive and ultimately your journey to motherhood. So what's special about what I offer as someone who has supported women crossing the threshold into motherhood in the birth room for so many years is that I know what it takes to have a thriving, healthy pregnancy, to have a safe, healthy birth that leaves you feel empowered to prevent things like postpartum depletion syndrome and even conditions like perinatal mood and anxiety disorders, in the extreme case, postpartum depression. And what I've seen is that each leg of your journey prepares you for the next. So it's never too early to start preparing your body, preparing psychologically and even spiritually for crossing this threshold into motherhood. It really is a sacred rite of passage. And so many of us haven't been given these tools because in our modern age, by the time you or I were our age, we would have seen our sisters give birth. We would have seen our siblings be born. We would have seen our friends give birth to their babies. And so many of us have been taken out of the birth room. We don't have exposure to what a birth looks like when it's not interfered with. And so this embodied wisdom is really your birthright. And it all starts even before you conceive. So did you know that months before you conceive, your lifestyle choices influence not only your hormonal balance and fertility, but also the quality of your egg and ultimately your baby's epigenetic expression. And this is true for both male and female partners. And so we're going to give you the tools not only to increase your chances of conceiving a child and increase your fertility that way, but also, again, your ability to maintain a healthy pregnancy and to feel your sense of vitality throughout and boost the health of your future baby. So in the first module, we're going to go deep into everything Pauline and I shared with you today, how to bring your hormones into balance through every phase of your cycle, and also become more in touch with your body's signs in each phase, your body's fertile signs, so that you can start to intuitively flow with what's best for your body in terms of your diet, in terms of your exercise, in terms of the most common causes of physical stress. So we're gonna be looking at all of that. And of course, the number one fertility killer, as Pauline said, is too much stress. So we wanna look at how we are balancing stress in our lives. And part of this is how we're caring for ourselves. And self-care, again, is something that's become commodified in our society. We kind of have the teen vogue version of healthcare when it comes, or self-care when it comes to manicures and pedicures, and all of that is wonderful and super fun, but it's actually deeper than that. Self-care is orienting to what you need, what your body needs on a moment-to-moment basis, and what you need as a psychosexual being. So what you're feeling, tuning into the language of your emotions, and learning how to relate with yourself and with your body in a more intuitive way. So next, we are going to go into a toxin exposure inventory, and this is one of the most important foundations of optimal fertility. Because again, we are nature. Our bodies are connected with nature. And in our modern day, we are exposed in 1 month to the chemical load of toxic chemicals that our grandmother's generation was exposed to in their entire lifetime. And these are endocrine disruptors that wreak havoc on our hormonal balance and also diminish the quality of our eggs. They also interfere with the chromosomal quality of our sex cells, which increases the risk of things like miscarriage and even potential genetic defects. So we are going to give you the tools to minimize these toxins in your environment, certainly in anything you might be ingesting or putting on your body. We're going to take you step by step through that process. And finally, of course, we will be supporting you to feed your fertility with the ideal balance of macronutrients and the key micronutrients you need to boost your fertility from the inside out. And finally, this is one of my favorite modules in the course, the sacred rite of passage from maiden to mother. This is where we go deep, and this is something that really no other fertility programs that I've seen are offering, because our bodies, as Pauline said so beautifully, respond not just to what we consciously are aware of in terms of what we're thinking and feeling, but to our deep unconscious beliefs. And so in this module, we're going to peel back the veils that might be hiding some of your unconscious associations with motherhood, some of the ways that on a deep level, you know, bringing a baby into the world may change your life in terms of your work, in terms of your social life, in terms of your relationship with your body and your sexuality and your partner, if you're partnered. And we're going to put the support systems in place. We're going to create a vision for you for this next leg of the journey as a mother that your body is going to respond to. And this is going to help boost your fertility from within. And so you will also have a keepsake journal, this from maiden to motherhood, this opening to motherhood journal that you can keep and one day share with your future babies as well. So you're going to receive workbooks and additional resources. Pauline's Hormone Cycle Awareness Manual is part of the recommended resources in the course. So again, definitely grab that to get a jump start on the Jumpstart Your Fertility course. You're going to have guided meditations to connect you deeply with your womb space and with the language of your emotions, so you can start to uncover what your feelings are telling you and not just be driven by the roller coaster that can sometimes come with cycling and our hormones. We'll have guest experts, wonderful experts like Pauline that will take you deeper into all of these topics, and you will receive lifetime access to all of the course content and materials as long as you need. So I really wanted to create this so that you are supported throughout your fertility journey. And as we add additional guest experts and more material in the future, you will have access to all of that as well. So I am so excited to invite you to jumpstart your fertility. Again, if you want to join the self-guided version, you can jump into that right now. We are also offering an 8-week version that will include live calls, live support calls with me, as well as with our guest experts. So in the self-guided version, you will have access to all 5 modules. You'll be able to work at your own pace. Again, you also have lifetime access to our library of resources and the guided meditations. You will, of course, receive the supplementary workbooks and product recommendations like Pauline's wonderful hormone cycle awareness guide. And you will also receive your opening to motherhood keepsake journal. And when you join us for the intensive, you will receive all of this, as well as the group sessions where you will get to reflect and discuss with other people in our journey, other women like yourself, sharing your fertility journey with a group of powerful, like-minded women. And you can directly ask your questions to me to receive individualized support. So normally, you will be invited to join for $497 for the self-guided course. And for the Jumpstart Your Fertility Intensive, the live version of the course, it's $1,297. But for today, since you are joining us in your Sexy Sacred Fertility webinar, we have dropped the self-guided membership all the way down to $297. So this is such a crazy steal. Again, no matter where you are on your journey, even if you have turned to assisted reproductive support, this is something that is going to give you the power to boost your chances of having your desired outcome, whether you are freezing your eggs, whether you're doing IUI or IVF. And of course, if you want to join us for the live $997 investment, if you sign up today in the next 24 hours as a thank you for being our guest in your Sexy Sacred Fertility webinar today. So I would absolutely love to be your guide on this journey. It would be my honor. And you can check out in the invitation, if you click on I'm ready to start my fertility here, you can check out what people are saying about the course. Dr. Claire Thompson has endorsed the course. We have so many endorsements from physicians, obstetrician, gynecologists, functional medicine doctors, naturopathic doctors, acupuncturists, Ayurvedic specialists, as well as clients who have worked with me in the past and who I have guided across the threshold into motherhood. So we would love to have you join us. So excited to share your Jumpstart Your Fertility journey with you. And of course, you're always welcome to reach out to me with any questions you have, or if you need any extra support getting registered. We are so excited to have you. So thank you so much for joining us today on your Sexy Sacred Fertility journey. We would so love to have you in the Jumpstart Your Fertility course. And Pauline, thank you from the bottom of my heart. You are really someone who embodies what you teach. Every time I see you, you are just radiant and flowing and so at home wherever you are in your cycle. It's just so inspirational to me. You ooze creativity and ease in your body. And I'm so excited to share your wisdom with my Jumpstart Your Fertility course participants. So again, where can people find you?
So first of all, thank you so much, so much. And thank you to all of you watching this as well. Again, you can love every part of your cycle, and you can balance your hormones and thrive, have the energy to thrive and to follow your path and to be in optimal fertile health, whether that is your creative energy into whatever that may be. So thank you. And if you are interested in reaching out to me, in working with me in my book, in the Om Cycle Yoga to balance your hormones, in all the different ways that I offer, you can write to me on Instagram. It is at Pauline Giselle, Pauline Gisele. And or you can reach out to me at www.balanceyourcycle.com, and there you can even book a free discovery call with me and purchase my ebook as well there. So yeah, either balanceyourcycle.com or on my Instagram, sending me a private message, and I'll get back to you.
Beautiful. Thank you again, Pauline. And once again, I just want to encourage everybody to get that ebook in your hands. It will provide a wonderful head start for your Jumpstart Your Fertility program, because we're so grateful to include all of Pauline's wisdom in the course. Thank you again for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you in Jumpstart Your Fertility journey. Much love and many blessings.
Thank you.
Thank you.